Welcome back to The Price of Success. I am your host, Chris Farrell. On today's podcast, I have Mr. Daniel Woodrum on the show. Daniel is the co-author of The Dark Side of Discipline with Craig Ballantyne. He is head coach of Early to Rise. He is a former gym owner. He's owned multiple businesses, had success, spoken on stages, all the things. He's done all the things we want to do. And he has an amazing story as to, what his childhood was like and the things he had to overcome to accomplish what he's accomplished. And I know that this episode will be ruthlessly practical and highly relatable. So without further ado, Daniel Woodrum. Welcome to The Price of Success, the podcast where we tell the whole truth about what it costs to build the business and life God created you for. We're here to remind you that conditions are never perfect. Success always comes with a price, and you're not the only one paying it. Let's get started. All right, bro. I'm excited, man.
Yes.
So, first off, dude, you're a machine. Like, you are a machine, and you know this. This is no secret. So, I've been following your stuff for a little bit.
Yeah.
And, man, the way you break down discipline, systems, standards just hits different, man. And so, a lot of people talk about success, right? But you live it, man. And you live it with no fluff and without this crazy grind and nonsense. And I also got to give you props because you got 3 young kids at home and a wife, and that seems like it's the most important thing to you surrounding this whole success journey. So yeah, man, I'm pumped to dig in today. And thank you for being on the podcast, Daniel.
Dude, thanks for having me. I appreciate those words. And yeah, dude, I mean, likewise, I've been following you now for a while, and it's cool, man, to meet people that have similar morals and values. And even though we've never met in person, this is really our first like face-to-face connection.
Sure.
You can tell when people are authentic, and it's when it's with someone that you want to align with. And I got those vibes to you right away. So I'm excited to chop it up.
Awesome, dude. Awesome, man. Well, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I was telling you previously, I was like, bro, there's something about me. Like, I love depth. I love depth. I love the important things,
Yeah.
It's the worst when you're in an elevator with someone and you're like, bro, we can't get anywhere past the weather because we
Yes.
have 4 floors to go. You know what I mean? And so I'm pumped about being able to just in long form have a great conversation with you. And
Yeah.
here's where I want to start this thing, man.
Mhm.
You've made money. You've spoken on stages. You've owned and sold 4 gyms. You've built a life of discipline that many, even in your circle, even your coaches are in awe of. Now you're co-authoring a book with, one of the top high performance coaches in the world on the planet, Craig
Yeah.
Ballantyne. Um, but here's what I know about successful people. They don't just wake up that way, dude. And so before the successes, like let's rewind a little bit
Mhm.
before all of these things. I mean, who was Daniel Woodrum before he found his way in the world?
Oh, I appreciate you asking that. And yeah, I mean, dude, let's do a backstory. Let's go back to the beginning
Do
of
it.
times of Daniel's life here. So
Yeah.
I was born in '86. So I'm 38 years old, and my parents were both born in Illinois. They did not know each other. They lived in different cities. They actually met in college in South Carolina, at the time prominent Christian school called Bob Jones University. There's a lot of controversy
Dude,
around
I've
that
heard of
school.
that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah. So a lot of people from up north would come down there, and so they met in college. They got actually married in college, and they were married for 10 years before they had me. I was kind of a oops baby, if you will.
Mhm.
And so I was born in '86, and the first 7 years had a good childhood, if you will. And then the first memory that I have of a vivid memory that I have of my childhood is actually when my parents set me down. I was 7 years old. And I'll never forget this, dude. I was a big wrestling fan back in the day, right? Who wasn't? WWF
Okay.
at the time. And there was a tradition in my family that my parents would take me to Blockbuster every Friday night after school, and I would get a pay-per-view recording of one of the latest, WrestleManias, whatever it may be. And
Yeah.
and so I was on the couch, 7 years old. I can remember the setup in the old house I lived in. And had the tape on, I was about to watch it, and my parents came in. They said, "Daniel, we need to talk to you for a minute." And I don't remember exactly like what the conversation was, what was said, but they sat me down and explained to me that mommy and daddy were going to separate. We're not going to be living together anymore. So my parents were getting divorced. We're separating. And that's like, I literally can remember, like, I don't remember exactly what was said, but I remember that moment, like the living room set up, where I was sitting, everything. And at the time, of course, I'm 7, right? So I don't really understand. It's like, yeah, okay, let me watch the WrestleMania, you know? I didn't fully
Right.
grasp it. And
Yeah.
so my parents ended up splitting up. And that was definitely a pivotal moment in my life. I was I'm only child. So I got some stepsisters, but only child. And so the next number of years, I would see my dad every other weekend. And I give my dad full credit. He was very, very active in my life. He would come to all my sporting events, was always there for me. But he didn't live with me. I didn't live with him. So I would see him every other weekend unless it came to sporting events. My mom worked, sometimes a couple of jobs to help support me. And so I was at home a lot. They kind of, just kind of did my own thing, if you will. And
Mhm.
I think because of a lot of that, I did not do very well in school. I did not excel in school at all. And in fact, I shared the stories that I had one of the lower GPAs in my entire senior class, and did not get into any 4-year colleges because I didn't have the grades. And so I ended up going to community school for 2 years. And then I ended up getting some grades, kind of getting my life together, if you will, living at home for a couple years. Ended up going to school at University of South Carolina. And I had this dream of being a sports agent. I was this big sports guy, it's like Jerry Maguire, And
Mhm.
I ended up doing an internship in college at this gym where I grew up at. And I just I was always active, but I ended up falling in love with health and wellness. So, long story short, I ended up graduating from Carolina and getting an opportunity to open up my very first gym. It was called 9 Round, which is a kickboxing gym
Oh, yeah, yeah.
franchise.
Mhm.
And yeah, it actually started in South Carolina, Greenville. That's kind of how I got.
Really?
So it was 2010, 11, and I was, I guess, 22 years old, about a year out of college, and got the opportunity to open up my first gym. And I moved to Charleston, South Carolina, which is where I live now, and opened up my gym. And since then, I've opened up 4 gyms, but I've always had, share all this to say, I've always had this chip on my shoulder because I was always told, like, you're not smart, you're not good enough. Not from my family, but I just knew that, right? Like I heard that a lot. And a lot of my friends would joke with me, kind of make fun of me, like, you don't have good grades, you're not smart, whatever it may be. And so, like, I just leaned on work. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to outsmart everybody, but I can definitely outwork everybody. So I've always had this insane work ethic, and it got me to a certain point of success. But I also kind of saw the dark side of it, if you will, where I was
Mhm.
just running myself into the ground. I was stressed, working 12, 14 hours a day. I remember the first couple of gyms I owned, I would have like an hour break in the day. So I'd go in my car and take a nap. And I remember when I'd wake up, set my alarm to wake up to go back to the gym. I'm like, man, like, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm just so tired, so burnt out. And that's when I started discovering the power of leadership and systems and discipline and time management. Like, Daniel, you can only work so hard. Like, eventually you can't really work any harder. You got to work smarter. And that
Yeah.
was sort of, I guess, like my transition into discipline and standards and systems. And I'll backtrack a little bit here, Chris. Is I in
Yeah.
2000, and I'll share this one more story here. Craig
Mhm.
Ballantyne, who's the guy that you mentioned, I co-authored the book with. Pretty cool story here. In college, I was on the internet on my computer. I remember sitting in my apartment on my bed. I typed in how to get 6-pack abs, and I wanted to get ripped, And this
Right,
guy,
right.
Craig Ballantyne, he had a company called Turbulence Training. At the time,
Yep.
was one of the biggest online fitness companies in the world, programs. And so, something like download this PDF to get 6-pack abs. So I put in my information, get on his email list, and start really like, man, this guy's amazing. He's adding so much value. I'm getting good results, health and fitness wise. And I remember he sent an email out and he's like, hey, I'm hosting this. He called it the TT Summit, Turbulence Training Summit out in San Diego. And, tickets were, I don't know, a few $100s. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know. This was the most important, probably, decision besides, me and my wife getting married. Probably the most important decision of my life. It was out of my comfort zone. Like, there is just something about this guy. Like, I felt called to book a ticket to step way out of my comfort zone, fly across country by myself, not knowing anybody here that was going to be at this event. End up flying out there to San Diego, and I met Craig at that event. And as they kind of say, like, the rest is history. Craig saw
Yeah.
something in me. He's about 12 years my senior. Saw
Mhm.
something in me, took me under his wing, and since then has been a mentor, a friend, a business partner. We own some gyms together. And now we're co-authoring a book together. And I tell people, like, besides obviously my immediate family, Craig has by far had the biggest impact on my life. So it's crazy how, like, one decision like that, you know what I mean, completely
Yeah.
changed my life. And I feel like that was the first person, Craig was, that somebody believed in me. Like, somebody truly believed in me. He saw something in me. I just needed that confidence in somebody like, dude, you've got what it takes to make a massive impact, to have a lot of success in your life. And I owe a lot to him, to be honest with you.
Dude, this is gonna blow your mind. We're like the same human being, in so many ways. Your story, if my wife was listening to this right now, she'd be like, "Are you kidding me?" Let me just explain this really fast. Um, so goodness gracious, I know who Craig Ballantyne is, right?
hmm
I owned a gym. I watched his turbulence training stuff. Him and Brian, is it Calici?
Brian Calica, yeah.
Dude, just like the most energetic dude in the world.
Yes.
Loved
Yep.
that guy. I
Yep.
I watched all their stuff. Um, but here's what's gonna blow your mind. My parents split when I was a kid. I
hmm
used it as a crutch, did not do well in school. And I will never forget, super, super fast story. I'll never forget, I'm sitting in the back of my math class against the wall, not really paying attention. I'm a junior in high school, and the student knocks on the door, walks in, hands a slip to my teacher, and she says, "Chris Farrell, you need to go to the principal's office." I was like, "What the heck? I'm not a bad kid, whatever."
Yeah.
So I knew I had bad grades. I walked down to the principal's office, sit in the chair. He walks around the desk, sits down. "Chris, we got a problem, man." I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You have a 1.3 grade point average and you're a junior.
Mm,
If you don't fix this, man, you're not going to graduate with your friends."
yeah.
And he didn't stop there though. Okay. He didn't stop there. He really highlighted the pain for me. He's like, "Do you understand what that means? Like, if you don't do this, then you're not going to walk. They're going to take pictures with their hats and gowns on. You're not going to be a part of them. They're going to go off to college and do all this stuff. And you're not going to have any of that." And he really just, it was such a shift for me, man. And it was a huge wake up moment for me.
Mm,
Long story short, I graduated by the skin of my teeth with a 2.0.
yeah.
Okay. But it was a wake up moment for me. So knowing that you had a pretty similar start, maybe it wasn't as bad as a 1.3, but
It
was
was
there like a
close.
wake up? Okay. All right. Was there a wake up moment for you? Like, dude, I have two forks in the road. If I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to keep getting this. And the pain of the future is way too painful. I got to change.
Yeah, so there's I'll share another story. There, a guidance
Yeah.
counselor, and I'll just say what it is. Her name was Miss Massingale, and it would have been junior year going into my senior year. 'Cause that's when people, especially these, that even back then, like you had to start applying to college pretty early, right? And like I knew I didn't have good grades, and I look deep down, I pretty much knew like I probably wouldn't get into 4 year college, but like the guidance counselor was supposed to like encourage you. So I remember, and everybody met with the guidance counselor at that time to talk about what are your plans. And so I remember going in the office with Miss Massingale and basically, telling her like, hey, I still wanted to go to a 4 year college because I knew that's what you're supposed to do. All my friends were doing it. And I kind of told her like where a couple of the options that I wanted to go more locally. And she kind of like almost giggled and laughed. It was like, huh, "What's your backup plan? You're never gonna get into a 4 year college." And like, ultimately, man, she was right. Like, I kind
Mm.
of needed to hear that to be truthful. Like, I needed that truth. But I also was like, screw you, And I
Right.
used that as motivation and fuel. And not saying that I completely shifted and started just like studying and getting better grades, but that was definitely a moment. Not just in college, but I've used that because I mean, look, I've still had plenty of struggles along the way. I've had challenges, setbacks, people doubting me. And I've always kind of go back. Thank you, Miss Mastingill, for watching this. Like, and I needed that. And I used that as fuel and motivation, saying, like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. And so that was
Yeah.
definitely another kind of pivotal moment of me using that to change things.
Mm. Mm. No, man, that's really interesting because it's funny, like, they're in positions to encourage us, but instead, many times they'll see the evidence of, like, it's not working, like, "Hey, bro, you're wasting my time, like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna whatever." But what's interesting is you were able to take that and turn it into motivation, which
Yeah.
what is it? Patrick Bet-David has a book that came out, Choose Your Enemies Wisely, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he's always talking about how, like, find an enemy that you wanna prove wrong, which for
Yeah.
me, I don't really have that killer instinct. I don't have anyone I wanna prove wrong. I'm just like, "Man, like, I gotta do better because I'm not here." But let's talk about this piece. I was an introvert, big
Mm-hmm.
time, and I still am,
Yep.
naturally. I saw one of your posts and you talked about naturally being an introvert. Yet I see pictures of you speaking and I see pictures of you coaching and I see all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me about being an introvert and whether that was something that you kind of had to crush, or you leveraged properly? Like, how have you navigated that on the way to where you are now?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and I appreciate you asking that because, like, it's funny. My wife and I are very opposite. Where she's an extrovert. I mean, she'd be the one to go to a party, get together. She doesn't know anybody. She'll just walk in the room, introduce herself, kind of own the room.
Mhm.
I'll make every excuse not to go, you know? And
Dude, me too.
it's funny because if it's like you and I kicking it, like you would think I'm the most outgoing guy because I feel comfortable. It's natural. It's
Yeah.
more of a one-on-one. And so the people that know me that I have a relationship with, like I would be an extrovert, if you will, but tendencies are to be introvert, especially if it's people I don't know. The one thing that I've tried to almost had to trick myself with, if you will, is like, especially when you go on stage or if I'm doing coaching or virtual training, something like that, it's like, it's not about me, it's about them, you know?
Mm.
And so, and when I can approach it like that, it takes away me being selfish and saying, me being in my feelings, me feeling insecure, saying, oh man, like I'm nervous, I have anxiety, I have stress. What are they going to think about me? It's like, no, no, Daniel, it's not about you. It's about them. And when I
Yeah.
could kind of turn it around like that and put the focus on them, it allows me to be selfless and not selfish. So that would be one thing. And then I would just say too is that with coaching calls and even when I'm on stage talking to people, I'm so passionate about what I'm talking about. If I'm truly like passionate, I'm an expert what I'm talking about, like I have no problem speaking. You know what I mean? Because again, it's my
Sure.
calling, it's my passion, it's my purpose. And the one thing I would say, dude, is that just for a fun story here is that
Yeah.
you probably know Fitness Business Summit (FBS) that
Oh,
Adage just
yeah.
put on.
Mhm.
I spoke on stage. God, dude, I don't even remember what year it was. Maybe 16, 17. And I spoke on stage. There was just shy of 1,000 people in the audience. By far the biggest event I spoke at to that point, and even this point, I've never spoke to a bigger audience
Mhm.
live. And I was a nervous wreck leading up to it, but as soon as I got on stage, there were so many bright lights on me, I couldn't see a soul in the
I
audience, you
love
know?
it. I love it, man.
It actually,
Yeah.
like, had me, it was like, okay, there's no more nerves because it just felt like I was just talking to, air out there because I couldn't see anybody. So it's actually funny. I found that it's actually more nerve-wracking almost talking to, like, a smaller, intimate group,
Hmm.
than a bigger stage for whatever reason. That's just been my
Interesting.
experience.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, 2 things. One is I grew up with, speech issues. Right?
Mhm.
I was a big stutterer,
Yeah.
and, like, I grew up in so we had 4 kids in our family, and it was just kinda like no one cared what I was saying, so I just kinda had to get it out, and I
Mhm.
still stutter from time to time. But one thing I still struggle with is I can talk to a room. I'm way better one-on-one,
Yeah.
but I struggle in small groups too, especially, like, on Zoom when they're like, "What does everyone think?" I can't get the words out of my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't even do that, but anyway, so here's what's interesting. I saw you said something on Instagram the very first day I followed you. I you said something. You were in your car and you said something like, "Hey, don't be afraid to make connections with people." It was something to the effect of like, if you genuinely believe that their life will be better as a result of knowing you. And I was like, boom, complete unlock. Because as an introvert, you're like, okay, I really want to be in these crowds. I really want to talk to these people because I know I can impact their lives in a positive way.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want them to do is think I'm like trying to get something from them because I trust me and I
Yeah.
authentically want to serve and help and all the things. But dude, when you said that, I was like, bro, where the heck did he learn that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and two is like, I'm thinking, imagine everybody watch this, listen to this. Like we've all suffered, and some of us still do. Probably, I still do at times. Like imposter syndrome,
Mm,
And it's like, well, if I go in this group, in this room or this group of people, how, like, what value can I add? What are they going to listen to me? And it's weird. I had this epiphany a while back. I don't remember if I was driving the car in the shower. It's like my two best places to think.
yeah.
It's like, even if I was, like, I think I might have been thinking about the book launch. Like, well, if I got on this crazy big podcast, if I got an Ed Milet's podcast, I could teach Ed Milet stuff, like one of the most
Yeah.
successful guys in the world in this space. Like, I have things, I have experiences, I have, superpowers, I have knowledge, I have passion that I could teach, that I could pass along to Ed Milet. And it's not about
Mm,
being cocky. It's just we all have things that we can add value to others. And
yeah.
so I've always had to remind myself because I used to suffer a lot from imposter syndrome. And I think it's honestly just by following social media, just seeing everybody else. I mean, I would remember like I would
Yeah.
have great months in my gyms. I would see somebody else have a better month, and I immediately
Yeah.
thought I'm not as good as them. I'd start feeling bad. It's like, no, 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 no. Like I'm on my own journey. I'm on my own path. You don't know what they're going through, like you have more success in your life in certain areas than they do. And it's just about, and that's part of the book that we talk a lot about is it's just running your own race. It's
Yeah.
what's most important to you. What are your values and your vision? And just try to keep blinders on. You can be inspired by other people. There's nothing wrong with that. But in the day, like you have to stay in your own lane and you need to know what's important to you. And when you can stay on that path, then you're going to find a lot more happiness and fulfillment in your life and in your business.
Yeah. So true, man. And I was honored to be able to read the book early before it
Yes.
comes out. Now, when this drops, the book should be out. But as I was reading it, I'm thinking to myself, like, this is as impactful, if not more impactful than Atomic Habits. The difference is it's in language where I don't have to go reread the page. You know what I'm saying? Because like
Yes.
James Clear, a couple times he like spoke over my head, and I was like, "Dang it,
Yeah.
bro, you're too smart. I got to reread that page." But with you guys, I was like, "Okay, conceptually, like I'm on board here. This
Mm.
makes sense." Um, but the way that they wrote this book is just so easy to comprehend. I mean, was that purposeful?
It is, yeah. And we said we want to keep the book super short. We want to keep the book very practical. And there's a lot of great books out there, obviously, and a lot of them are theory based, which is fine. But like you said, you've got to read the book 3 times to be able to even understand it or grasp it.
Yeah,
And I mean, hopefully, people will go back and read our book again because every time you read a book, you're going to pick something new up. Whether it's something that you missed or you're in a different season of your life or your business, like, oh, now this makes more sense. You're more open and receptive to it. But yeah, we wanted to keep the book short, simple, and practical. And it feels like we were able to do that because I mean, the topic of discipline can be a very complex topic. There's a lot of things out there, and we just wanted to try to like simplify it and show people at least our view on what discipline is and how to best leverage discipline.
yeah. Well, I definitely felt it in the book as I was reading it. Um, I'm the guy who I read a book and there's an exercise, and I'm like, okay, should I stop and do the exercise or should I keep reading? And
Yeah,
most of the
yeah,
time, I just keep reading because I'm like,
yep.
oh, I'll keep reading. You guys have a ton of exercises in the book, like really,
Mhm.
really useful ones.
Yeah.
Um, and one in particular that I did yesterday when I was finishing up the book. Sorry to be a procrastinator. Was it was two very very simple questions, and what it led me to do was to actually set up a system to leave my phone in my
Mhm.
office
Yeah.
and be more present with my family.
Yeah.
Because what I love about the book is like, let me be real. Craig Ballantyne, I used to be like, oh, I love Craig Ballantyne, but there was a disconnect because I
Mm.
have 6 kids and Craig had at, at the time I had 3 and he had none.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like I can only take so much from this guy.
Yep.
But when Craig had his 3 kids, and then knowing you have 3 kids, I'm like, okay, now I can sit here and actually like, okay, I can take a little more advice from them because they have
Sure.
kids too. So I
Yeah.
love the way the book's written for really what matters in life.
Yeah, and you're right, man. The phone. I always say that like the phone is the biggest distraction for almost everybody walking this earth. And I'll share a story with you if you don't mind, because it's,
Yeah.
it's it's the phone sort of systems, if you will. Is that this would have been so my oldest daughter, Belize, she'll be 7 in a couple months, but at the time she was 3, and so obviously my other 2 younger kids were not born yet. And I was in the living room with my daughter, Blease. My wife, we lived in like an open townhome at the time. My wife was in the kitchen cooking dinner. And, I should have been playing and present with Blease. And I was on my phone on the couch, and there was like this coffee table in our living room right in front of us. And Blease had some toys on the coffee table. And I don't remember, dude, what I was on my phone. It would have probably been email or social media or text or something like that. But clearly, my daughter, Blease, was trying to get my attention. And I was so into my phone, I didn't even realize it. And eventually I feel like this tap on my leg. And so I look up and she looks at me with like the sweetest, innocent eyes and says, Daddy, put your phone away and play with me. And it was like this again, we all had these moments. It was like the stab in the heart, like, oh my God, like I am missing out like on these moments with my daughter for something that is not urgent at all, that is not even important. And
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, like moving forward, I'm not gonna have my phone around me. Like I'm motivated. I've got this why now, blah, blah, blah. It
Mhm.
lasted a couple days. I got right back on my phone. Like the same habit. It was just this vicious cycle, if you will. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, like this clearly is not working. So then I took it the more extreme measures of putting it in the room, putting it on airplane mode, right? Like just creating as much friction as possible. And that certainly helped. But the ultimate phone hack, in my opinion, is something called the Opal app. And
Okay.
I do not work for Opal. I get nothing from them.
Right.
But I actually got put on this by Craig like a year ago.
Mhm.
And it is an app. Oddly enough, it's an app that blocks apps, which is just hilarious. Like the irony of that, but
Right.
it's an Opal app. Yeah, exactly right. But I think I paid $99 for the year. And it's an app where you can block certain things on your phone at certain times of the day. It's fully customized. And so for me, there are two main important uh, parts of the day that are most important to me.
Mhm.
Morning time, which is my morning magic time, my productive time. I'm a morning person. I'm sure we can talk about that. And then in the evening time when I want to be present with my family.
Yeah.
And so I have most everything on my phone blocked in the morning time from 4 to 7 o'clock, which is like my productivity time, and I work out in the morning time as well. And then in the evening time, when I want to be present with my family, I don't take any work commitments after 4 o'clock. That's like a non-negotiable for me. So from 4 to 7, and luckily our kids are still young enough. We put our kids to bed around 7:30, the latest. So from four
Yeah.
to seven, I have my phone blocked as well. And that time frame has been amazing because I've been able to be productive and present and not feel like I am attached to my phone. And it's been an absolute game changer. I probably made Opal a lot of money over the year just talking
Let's
it up,
go.
and it's
Yeah.
so powerful. And I always say, Chris, sometimes to break extreme habits, bad habits, you have to take extreme measures. And
Mm.
that's an extreme measure that I had to take, but it's been a game changer for me.
Let me touch on the morning routine piece because one would think you guys are sending mixed signals in a lot of ways, right? Because here's what I know as a former fitness coach of 13 years and own a gym and all the things very similar to you. Whenever the guy who needs to get in shape says, all right, that's it. I'm used to waking up at 8, but I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. and get to the gym at 5. And I'm going to do it 7 days a week. And I'm going to do a 60-minute workout. Never lasts,
Yep.
right? It never
Yep.
lasts. But then we see someone like you who says, like, this is what I do. These are the bright yellow lines that I create. What's the difference between that guy and you?
Great question. So, a couple things here is that I think people try to take too many extreme measures when they want to make changes. And so, for example, if you're not working out at all and you want to start working out and you go from 0 workouts to 5 to 7 days per week, that's too much of a drastic change. Is it possible? Have people done it? Sure. The likelihood of you being successful and having a sustainability on that is just very, very small. Another example that I see a lot happen is that people who want to wake up early, like, okay, I get up at 7 a.m. I will start getting up at 5 a.m. Going from 7 to 5, like right away, you're not gonna have success with that. It is too much of a drastic change. You're already gonna psych yourself out about it because you're thinking, oh my God, like I get up at 5 o'clock. You talk yourself out of it before you even start, and your sleep cycles are gonna be screwed up because that's such a massive jump. So for something like that, it's like, no, 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 like just do little 10 or 15-minute increments, start waking up at 6:45 for a week. One of my favorite sayings is compliance breeds confidence. So it's like get compliant for 6:45 for a week and then go to 6:30 for a week and then 6:15 and then you slowly build that sustainable approach. And yeah, it might take you a month to do that, but you're going to be able to get to a better wake up time in a month as opposed to trying to make this drastic change and you're just this up and down roller coaster, this vicious cycle over and over again. So that's one component of it.
Sure.
Another thing is that, I think people when it comes to discipline to me, discipline is like, what do you have to do? Like, I have to go work out. I have to get up early. Standards, which we talk a lot about in our book, which to me is like your rules of your life, your non-negotiables. It's who you are. Like, I don't go work out. I am a workout person. Like, that is my identity. That is, and again, that's not saying that there's not other important things in my life, but it's not what I do. It's just who I am. I am a man who takes care of himself. One of the biggest things for me, Chris, is that my dad has always been overweight for most of my life. And, it certainly has impacted a lot of things for him, for me, like growing up and wanting to do a lot of outdoor things and active things, and even with my grandkids. And so that one of the things, like, I want to be the gold standard of what a healthy dad looks like. Doesn't mean I'm going to be the most ripped dad. Like, I saw that how unhealthy habits has impacted my dad and my relationship with my dad to a certain degree. And like,
Yeah.
I don't ever want my kids to look at another dad and say, I wish my dad was healthy like that. Like, I want to be the gold standard, you know? And so for me, like that is one of my standards. So that's why I exercise every single day. I'm not saying that other people should do that. This is my race. This is my journey. This is what is important to me. But for me, like it is a standard, is a non-negotiable. I exercise every single day. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to make a decision. It is just who I am,
Dude,
not what I do.
that's really good, man. Again, we're the same person when it comes to that stuff. And personally for me, so like we have a chaotic life, right?
Yeah.
All the kids are homeschooled, 6 kiddos, 9 to new,
Yeah.
completely nuts. My wife
Hmm.
obviously has bore 50, 11 children, and she works out every day and I work out every day. And sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, it was such a busy day. It was so crazy that I'm like, I'm just going to go take a 1/2 mile run and it'll take me 3.5 minutes. And that's that.
Yeah.
That's my workout.
Yep.
And so as a fitness coach, I tell people all the time, I'm like, dude, if you say I'm going to work out for 60 minutes a day and then it ends up being 30 minutes, still worked out,
Yeah.
bro. Good
Exactly.
job. Right.
Yep.
So what I like about the book was just the realistic side of things of like, hey, it's not bad if you work out every day, but if you're working out every day just to check a box and say like, hey, internet, look at me,
Uh-huh.
now we have problems.
Agreed. And another thing we talked a lot about in the book is like, I think we've associated discipline with pain and suffering, and that's the exact opposite. And so, to me, it's like you want to I try to design my life to be as easy as possible. Like, I don't want life is hard enough. I don't want to make it harder. And so, like, the reason that I'm able to be consistent with my morning routine and my exercise is like, I get up early, I go to Starbucks very early. My Starbucks opens up really early locally. I go to Starbucks and I join a gym literally because it is 3 miles away from my house and it's right beside Starbucks. So if I had designed everything that's important to me, I've designed it to make it
Mhm.
easy. Our kids' school is like right down the street. So
Yeah.
like I want to make my life as effortless and as easy as possible. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not about being lazy. It's about being strategically lazy, is what I like
Yeah.
to say.
Right. Well, that's how our brains work too. Our brains are always looking for shortcuts.
Yeah.
Always, always, always. And so if we're meeting those demands for our brains, like, less
Mhm.
cortisol is pumping
Yes.
out and we're actually making sense. No, dude, that's so good. That's so good. Let let's go to family real fast.
Yeah.
So you said your oldest is 7, your
Yep.
youngest is what?
So yeah, daughter's almost 7. Her
Okay.
son Banks, he will be 5 in a couple months. All three of our kids' birthdays are within like a 3 week span. Oddly
Oh my
enough,
gosh,
yeah,
man.
yeah. So Banks will turn 5 in a couple months, and then Bellamy, our youngest, she will be 2 years old in a couple months as well. So
Okay.
almost 2, 5, and 7. Let's just say for ease
Yeah.
purposes. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yep. And then your wife Brittany, right?
Yes. Yep.
So okay, so let me ask, how has your how have your disciplines impacted your wife? And how has your wife's disciplines and your disciplines impacted how your kids show up, even at the ages they're at?
Great question. Yeah. So I'm a big believer, and I didn't make this up. I've stolen this from other people. It's like, most things in life are caught, not taught, especially when it comes to your kids. And so there are a couple of very important things that for my wife and I, this was how we were raised. And I think it's sort of maybe just a Southern culture, if you will, is like we are huge on manners. So all our kids, I mean, obviously Bellamy, she's talking now, but it's gibberish, right? It's not full on
Right.
conversation. But Banks and Blease, I mean, we hammer it home. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. Please. Thank you. Like, I mean, and the thing is I tell my kids, please, thank you. Like I'll even sometimes say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Because again, like
Mm,
if I'm not leading by example, how can I expect them to do that? And so it's
mm,
one thing to say something, but if you can actually teach by example, to me, like that's the ultimate way to help your kids, have to grow and be successful in life in whatever area that you want to be successful. So that's one thing is mannerism is huge. Another thing is obviously health and exercise is very important to my wife and I. So, Banks and Belize kind of grew up in the gym because I sold my last gym about a year and a half ago. So Banks and Belize, especially Belize, like they were in the gym all the time. So they were sort
yeah.
of exposed to it. But they know like mommy and daddy work out every single day. Where's mommy at? She went to work out. She's taking care of herself. She's being healthy. We take our kids on walks all the time. We're a very active family. So that was another thing, that mannerisms and health is a very important thing to us. Now, in terms of like how my wife and I have kind of helped each other become more disciplined, we're opposite in a lot of ways. I'm a morning person. My wife is not. I have helped her become more consistent. Like she does not get up nearly as early as I do, but I've helped her be more consistent on when she wakes up, and that's definitely helped her out a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and then another thing that my wife has helped me with is my wife is the most unselfish person I have ever met. She almost to a fault sometimes.
Yes, I
I'm
feel this.
yeah, I'm the only child, as I've said, and I am very selfish. I just am. Like I want to do things on my own terms. Again, like I didn't have to really I didn't really have to answer anybody growing up. I didn't have siblings. And my mom worked all the time. So I just kind of did my own thing. And so I didn't really have a lot of structure or discipline, to be honest with your accountability. Again, not in a bad way. Like my mom was amazing. She is amazing. She raised me so well, but I just kind of did what I wanted to in a lot of ways.
Sure.
And so I'm very selfish in that regard. And my wife has definitely helped me be a lot more selfless. And it's still it is a work in progress. She's always calling me out, but we do a really good job, I feel, of holding each other accountable and giving feedback. Saying she'll say, "Hey, Daniel, you're being selfish right now. You're right." You know what I mean? And so
Right.
we're always trying to positively, give each other feedback and help each other grow, and ultimately just being on the same page. Like one of our standards is hashtag Team Woodrum, which is my last name. So
Mhm.
there was a time, Chris, where and maybe you and your wife experienced as well, as like we were not on the same page, and there was a lot of resentment because like my wife would be doing things and I wasn't helping out, or vice versa. And it was like this weird friction where we didn't really communicate, we didn't talk about it, but there was a lot of tension. And it's like, no, 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 no. Like we've got to work together. We need to be a team here. And so one of the things that really helped us out is that every Sunday we will sit down and look at each other's calendar. Like, okay, what Brittany, what is your calendar? What is my calendar? What appointments do you have? What mornings and what times are you gonna work out this week? And so we'll really kind of coordinate each other's individual schedules, make sure we're on the same page, help each other out. And then we'll
Yeah.
kind of look at the family calendar, like, okay, well, Belize on Thursday afternoon has dance class, and Banks has this school function, this birthday party. And so that 25 minutes every Sunday of just kind of meeting and kind of going over the family calendar has done so much for us in terms of just
Sure.
being on the same page and like, hey, what can I do to serve you this week? Is another question we try to ask each other.
Yeah.
And that's really helped us just be more aligned and be more of a team, and not like, we're kind of like almost co-parenting in the same household, if you will, and just
Right.
doing different things. So
Right. Dude, that's so good. There's so much there. As a guy who's been married for 12 years, my wife and I have a marriage podcast too that, after kid number 5 came, it was like, "Oh, how are we gonna do this?" But it's still up and active.
yeah.
But one thing we've learned over the years is intentions. It's just like,
Yes.
if your wife's saying, "Daniel, you're being selfish," what's her intention? Is it to be a jerk, or is it her intention like, "Hey, babe, like, you might not notice this about you, and like, I'm gonna call you out," right?
Yeah.
And same to her. And so when you build a strong bond together, intentions are everything, man. So, well, first off, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, let me give you one more little system here, if you
Yeah,
will, of
I love it.
intention. Is that one thing? And this might sound weird to some people, but because you're like, why can't you just say this to each other's face? But this is what has worked for us.
Mhm.
I'm a big believer in gratitude, and
Yeah.
I don't always practice personal gratitude. But I was like, I never really like give consistent, outwardly gratitude to my wife, Brittany. And so we created this. It's been at least a year now. Every single Friday, we will send each other a gratitude text message.
Hmm.
And I will just, again, like, listen, I could say it to her face, but my love language is words of affirmation. And I just like, my preferred communication is written, if you will. So, like, me being able to see a gratitude text my wife, and I can go back and look at it throughout the week, like, it's just special to me. And she
Yeah.
feels the same way. So, every Friday, we'll send each other a text message, and it's usually there's not a set parameter of like it's got to be this many things, but it's anywhere from usually like 4 to 6 things that we're grateful for one another for that week. And it could be as simple as like, thank you so much for cooking that dinner the other night, or thank you so much for helping out with bath time, or thank you so much for watching that next Netflix show with me, Dana, when I know you want to go to bed. You know what I mean? Like it could be whatever it is. But dude, that is it's really special. And what I found is that I actually get more joy out of giving her gratitude than receiving the gratitude from her. You know what I mean? Like it just feels
That's good.
good to say, "Hey, babe, like thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you." And
No,
yeah, dude,
that's
we've been
good.
doing it consistently for like the last year plus, and it's been really cool, really cool.
Dude, that's really good. Yeah, I like that. Because I mean, when it comes to like the core human needs, people don't realize it, but contribution's it. Like,
Yeah, Yes.
period. Point blank, that's it. So you contributing, and showing her love and obviously both of your intentions being pure, man. Yeah, dude, that is really, really good. Let's shift gears to Early to Rise real fast.
Yeah, dude.
So you're the head coach of Early to Rise.
Yes. Um,
So in my mind, the whole reason I started this podcast is I was like, there is a price to success.
mm,
There is,
mhm.
right? And so actually, let me scale back here. What's the price that you pay day in and day out, week in and week out to have a successful family?
Ooh. Ooh. That's a really good question. I would say so for my family, I think the price that I pay is my time because even though I'm very structured with my time, like I go to bed and these are sacrifices. This is not for everybody and people might say, "Dude, you're crazy." Like I go to bed early. I go to bed between 8 and 8:30 every single night because I get up really early, okay? Like
Yeah.
really early. And again, I don't even like telling people what time I get up because that's not what it's about. Like it's not
I've
about
seen your reels at
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
4:30 a.m. in Starbucks.
Yeah. It's so like I'm always like it's not about like a brag. It's just like
Yeah.
that's I know that if I want to live a day of the standards of what's important to me, which is
Yeah.
work and family and health. Like I have to make sacrifices. So I think the price that I pay for my family is I the price to pay is sacrificing time, right? Getting up early, sacrificing sleep. Those are all things that I know that even though it's a sacrifice, the return is so much more because I know that if I don't get up early, my work is not going to get done. And then that's going to bleed into family time because now I'm going to be on my phone catching up with work past 4 o'clock when my standard is no, 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 no more work after 4 o'clock. You
Mhm.
know, so it is a sacrifice. It's a price I pay, but it's all worth it because family is everything. Family over everything is one of my
Yeah.
sayings. And so if I know that, then I have to make those sacrifices so I can put my family first above anything
Yes.
else.
So good, man. Yeah, you're so right. You're sacrificing your sleep and maybe even entertainment that you want
Sure.
in the
Yeah,
evening in
absolutely.
order to know that you have enough time for your family because your kids are in formidable years right now,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
they're young and your wife's probably like, "Oh my goodness, like there's so much going on." And she's balancing her job and you're balancing like, dude, there's a lot there. Okay. Now let's talk about the price of success to maintain what you have and continue to build on it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the price for success, for me at least, there are a few things. I love exercise, I love fitness, dude. I could easily be in the gym, like, 2 hours a I just love it. Like, it just I love it. And so I would actually say that, like, I sacrifice my physique to a certain degree for success. Because
Mm,
again, like even though I exercise every like I'm in and out the gym in 30 minutes. Like I would love to be in the gym for 90 minutes, 2 hours. Like I would be in better shape. I would probably quote unquote maybe be healthier, if you will. But it's a sacrifice I make for success because again, I know that in order for me to be able to get my morning productivity done, get my kids off to school, start taking coaching calls after I drop my kids off to school, like I have to sacrifice, right? Like maybe my physique and my health to a certain degree in order to do that. Also, sacrifice, like you said, entertainment, sacrifice hobbies. There are certain things that I enjoy doing that I'm willing to make the sacrifice ultimately to have more success. Now, for me, yes, success is about making more money,
mhm.
and I want to be able to provide a great life for my family, which I feel like I am doing right now. There's always other levels that you want to get to. But to me, success looks like being able to spend 4 hours a day with my kids and yet still make a good living, if you will, and be able to serve my coaching clients, serve early to rise through the coaching, through the trainings, through all the stuff that I do inside the company.
Mm. That's so good, and that brings me back to the book, the Dark Side of Discipline, because you guys do talk about it in there, like, don't use someone else's standard of success, and
Yeah.
yours are pure, yours are wholesome, yours are good, and I think everyone should have that type of a goal. However, like, there are some people at a stage in their business where they're just like, "I gotta build a skyscraper, I gotta build a skyscraper," and they actually it's not success for them to spend 4 hours with their kids in the evening because 'cause they're not there yet. I think it should
Yeah.
be, because I think that's God's good design at the end of the day, but whatever, they have their own thing. Talk
Yep.
about how important it is to craft your own vision of success.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to say like, and this ties into this exact question is the way that we identify discipline in the book is to us, discipline is about putting a level 10 out of 10 effort into your level 10 out of 10 problem. We all have problems in life. It could be personal problems, it could be business problems, it could be a hybrid of both. And we share this story in the book, and this comes from Craig, and it's great. He's told the story for many, many years, and it's always really resonates. Is that speaking of fitness business summit, right? Like the
Mhm.
the event that I used to go to and speak on stage or speak an attendee. Again, 1,000 fitness professionals, some of the most ripped people you've ever seen in your life, you know? And Craig would always say, like, Craig would go to these events, he and Baders put these events on, and there would be people that were 8% body fat, okay, but they had $8 in their bank account. And all they wanted to talk about was the latest fitness hacks and the latest fitness strategies and all these things. They would come back the next year, they'd be 7% body fat, but $7 in their bank account. And so their level 10 out of 10 problem was they needed to grow their business. They needed to make more money, but they were putting a level 1 out of 10 effort into that. And they were putting a level 10 out of 10 effort into a level 1 out of 10 problem, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So for us, it's like you've got to identify what is your current level 10 out of 10 problem or challenge. Could be finances, it could be health, it could be an addiction, it could be hitting the snooze button. There are so many different things. We all have challenges in life. So you got to identify what is my level 10 out of 10 problem right now. And then how can I put a level 10 out of 10 effort into that and
Mhm.
match that? Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, Daniel, like you said you work out every day. Like clearly you're in great shape, like discipline, that's not a level 10 of the problem. It's not, that's a standard. There's a difference, right? Like
Right.
that's a not a good, that's just a rule of my life.
Yeah.
I do have things that I want to work on, right? I do have level 10 out of 10 problems. And I have to make sure I put a level 10 out of 10 effort into that. Can I give you a really
Yes.
quick example here?
Absolutely.
This morning. This is the most silly example, but I think we all can resonate. We all procrastinate on things that are so simple and so minute, but we put it off and it becomes a bigger and bigger problem. My eyesight, I've had these my eyesight for the last couple of years now. I think it's probably just from staring at a computer screen, and
Right.
I'm on this computer all day, right? And it's gotten worse and worse. And I had this embarrassing moment not too long ago. So my wife and I go to a small group every single Sunday through our church, and it is in our neighborhood. It's family friends of ours. There's four couples that do this small group every Sunday from 5 to 7. And we get the scripture, we'll read the scripture, we'll discuss it.
Mhm.
And it was my turn to read scripture, the Bible. I can't read it. I cannot see it. I'm like,
Oh,
guys, I'm
no.
sorry. Like, I literally cannot read this.
Oh,
Somebody else
dude.
read the scripture.
Yeah.
And it was like Jesus sign, Daniel, you need to go get checked. And so
Oh my
this,
gosh.
but I kept putting it off. And like, now you might be thinking, oh, is that really a problem? Well, yeah, like it's starting to affect me. Like I have a hard time seeing driving at nighttime. Like it's starting to get a little bit more dangerous, right? And more of a challenge. And I kept putting it off because I knew the inevitable. If I go to the eye doctor, I'm gonna get glasses or contacts, blah, blah, blah. One of the guys in the small group, his name's John. He's a friend of mine. Daniel, I am going to hold you accountable. You're going to book an eye doctor appointment today. He's like, I'm going to Starbucks with you this morning, which is this morning. And he said, I'm going to make sure that you book that eye appointment. So he follows me to Starbucks at 4 a.m. this morning. We get there, we talk a little bit, we get a little bit of work done. All right, Daniel, it's time for the eye appointment. So I book an eye appointment this morning, and it's not until April 17th. It took a while. They didn't have a lot of times, but still, like I was able to solve that 10 out of 10 problem just by simply putting the 10 out of 10 effort into it. So I know it's
Yeah.
a silly example, but
No.
a lot of times, maybe a 10 out of 10 problem is not like this massive thing. It's just something that you need to get done. You just have to match the intensity with that to overcome it.
Mm. No, that's good, man. Because we all have life nags that just weigh on us,
Yeah.
like weigh on us. But again, kind of like these wake up moments we talked about earlier. It's like
Mhm.
people are more motivated by pain than pleasure. They think they're motivated by pleasure, but they're really
Yeah.
motivated by pain. So when you
Yeah.
really thought, like, oh shoot, I can no longer read the scriptures, and this is a little unsafe to be in the car with the kids at night and stuff. Now you're like, all right, now I got to get this done. So no, man, I think
Yes.
that's a great. I think that's a great example. Pivoting back to early to rise.
Yeah.
So you guys work with high performers,
We
right?
do. Yes, business
Now,
owners typically.
here's what I know about high performers, and you might be like, Chris, you're wrong. And that's fine. They've got an ego, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So most times when they have an ego, they're like, I don't need this. I don't need that. Why should a high performer read this book?
Great question. So I believe that a high performer should read this book because you need objective eyes. You need outside eyes. The biggest thing that we see like with people that come into our coaching program is that you are emotionally attached to your problems,
Mm.
right? Like you're emotionally attached to everything. So your judgment is flooded because you have emotionally attachment to it, right? But if you have a coach or if you read a book where it's outside objective eyes, there's no emotional attachment to you, we can tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And for us at Early to Rise, even though almost everybody hires us for business coaching, oftentimes the most impact that we make with our business coaching clients is on the personal side of things. Because again, it comes down to discipline, poor communication, poor health habits, lack of productivity, poor self leadership. One of the big things that we help a lot of clients with is leadership. There's three levels of leadership, in my opinion: self leadership, leading others, and then leading leaders. Everybody
Mm.
wants to jump over the self leadership portion and start leading
Yes,
others.
man.
You don't lead yourself, you can't lead others. And so
Yeah.
self leadership is the foundation of leadership. And I mean, look, it's always a work in progress. You're never going to be perfect in that area, but if you don't, conquer self leadership, you're never going to be able to conquer the other levels of leadership. And so by
Yes.
us bringing these like outside objective eyes that can tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, it's an absolute game changer. And also another thing too is that a lot of times we hear people say, well, we work with people, real estate, financial advisors, data centers, construction. Like, well, what do you know about? We don't need to know about the actual specific details of your industry because it's systems that can be applied across the board, right? And a lot of times too is what we find is that if you only go to fitness page, right? If you only go to fitness conferences, like all you're gonna get is fitness advice. Like that they stay in their lane. They only learn from people inside the industry. But if you get people from outside experience, we can bring different ideas and experience to the table that you would have otherwise not got because you're only going after getting advice from people in your industry, in your space.
Yeah. Yeah. No, dude, I see that's so good. That's so good, man. It's again back to the ego thing. People are like, it's fine. I've read the books. I've done that. Well, yeah, but also all the answers to being fit are on the internet everywhere, and people are still fat.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah,
like, bro, if we're not where we want to be, we got to keep moving, and we got to find the right coaches. And usually that's an investment that kind of hurts a little bit,
it
like,
does. Yeah.
and you're in a group of guys who are doing the exact same thing, who are like, all right, man, like we're all locked in with the same type of a mission.
Yeah, and what I
So
love too, real quick, Chris, is that
yeah,
another thing too is that like, and not just to make it about like early to rise, but
sure,
since you ask, is that I think because we work with people in all different industries, like it's not everybody wants each other to succeed. Like, I mean, let's be honest, if you're only in
yeah,
the fitness space, you can be a little bit like, I don't want to share certain things,
yeah,
competition, whether that's right or wrong, that's just the way that we're wired as humans. But because we just have such like a wide variety of coaching classes in different industries, like we're all able to help each other. Oh, you need an accountant, we have an accountant in our coaching program. Oh, you need a real estate, investor. Like we have this. So
yeah,
it's everybody can help each other out. It's all complementary and everybody wants to see each other succeed. Like there's even though there's an ego there, it's like we all want to eat, we all want to eat together and have success together.
dude, yeah, so good, man, because powerful relationships are mutually beneficial,
Yeah.
are they not? I mean,
Yes.
like, nothing is worse than having a conversation with someone who doesn't get the fact that, like, we should be, like, learning and growing from each other, or something positive should come out of this for both of us at some level, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And,
Absolutely.
and when you invest in yourself, I've invested a ton in coaches and things in the past as well, is
Mm,
like, I was telling my wife yesterday, I was like, it almost, like, breaks your brain and turns you into a new human being.
yeah.
And, like, you reach this level where you're like, "Whoa, I process things differently. I I literally show up differently in every way." But then you surround yourself with people that are at that level too. And you guys talk about that in the book of, like, the old adage of, hey, you know, you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how important is that? Even though it's old and everyone's heard it, I mean, there's power there.
Oh, there is absolute power there. And, it's one of those things where, and I think we all struggle with this. Like, there are friends and people that I used to hang out with very close to. And at the time, like, we had similar visions and ambition and morals and values, And over time, things have changed. Like, we've evolved. And it's like, I can still I can still love those people, want the best for those people, and I can still communicate with those people, maybe spend a little bit of time with them. But like, I know that that's not my tribe in this season of life. Like, it's just, I know that they're not going to help me grow in certain areas that I want to grow. And so I need to be very aware of who are, my 5 people in my inner circle that I spend the most time with, that I communicate the most with. Doesn't mean that I'm going to forget about these people that I think that I'm better than them. It's just
Yeah.
like I have to modify how much time I spend with them or how much energy I give them. Because I know that there are other people now where I'm at in my life. Like, what got you here won't get you there sort of philosophy. Now I know that there are other people right now that I need to be more connected with. I need to be surrounded more by, because I know that my morals and my values and where I want to go in life, whether it's
Mm,
spiritually, business, personally, health wise, like, that's who I need to be around, because they're going to continue to help me level, and they're going to continue to help level me up.
yeah. Yeah, dude. As we conclude this interview, man, it's been amazing. Like,
Yes.
this has been so helpful. And here's why it's cool, Daniel, is because social media, you can only show me what you wanna show me,
Hmm.
and you control the perception of who you are, but you still can't show me everything.
Yeah.
And that's why podcasts are so powerful to me. I'm like, "Bro, like, like, who would have thought that Daniel didn't have good grades and doubted himself and didn't just, like, literally grow up with, like, oh, yeah, I have 2 parents that are together, my grades were great, I was, valedictorian
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
moved on to college." Like, no one knows this crap,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And so that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast, and I'm so enamored that our stories are so similar.
I know.
Um, dude, it's wild. But there are 2 things I wanna highlight here. One is the book is The Dark Side of Discipline. I read it. It's great. It is a quick read. It only took me about, I would say 3.5 hours,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
goal. We said
Yeah,
under
yeah,
like
yeah.
under 4 or 5 hours would be great, right? If you
Yeah.
can read it all the way through. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was great, and there's tons of exercises in there. Like I said, one I've already implemented. I'm like, "Okay, here I go. I'm
Yeah.
good." Um, Now, what's cool about it as well is that it also addresses addiction. It also addresses things like, I'm gonna say corn, but everyone knows what that means. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about the commodity corn. But inappropriate behavior. It talks about, like, beating alcohol,
Yep.
all the thing cussing, like, dude, it covers the gamut, and
Yeah.
yet still the North Star of the standard of who you are and what's actually important to you, I think is what's so powerful about it. So here's my question to you.
Hmm.
You've accomplished a lot. We've talked about your story a little bit. This might be a hard one, and you can pause if you need to, but you're you're 39 now, right?
38.
38. Okay.
Yeah.
I did the math wrong. Okay. So you're 38, you're closer to 40 than 30, all right?
Yes.
Who
Yes.
is Daniel at 50? How are you better? And what's that gonna cost you?
Woo! Wee. Man, that's good. That is good. Daniel at 50. I I hope that I have a even deeper relationship with God.
Mm,
I grew up in the church and sort of fell out of it, if you will, through later on in my childhood and kind of going in my college years. And then, when my wife and I got married, we got back into church pretty faithfully. And then, just being very transparent, like, COVID happened and couldn't go to church. So for quite a while, so we fell out of the habit of it and didn't go to church for a number of years. So, like, Banks and Blease did not, the early years did not really grow up in church.
yeah.
And then about a year ago, the people now that we have the small group with, our friends Lindsay and John, they're like, we want to get you guys back in church. And so we got back into church and we joined small group. And this is the most connected I feel to God probably in my life, and there's still a long ways to go. But I feel the spirit inside me like more and more every day, like every week. And so I want to continue to sort of grow my walk in life with God.
Mhm.
And I want to also be able to eventually serve other people and help them
Mm.
experience that. And so whether that's mission trips or meeting with troubled youth,
Mm.
it feels like I've always loved kids, and I've always felt a calling to help impact kids because I'm like, man, if I just had somebody when I was younger, like the Craig, but it wasn't until I was 21, 22 till I met Craig. Like if I had that guy, if I had that strong male figure in my life when I was 10, 12 years old, like what would my life look like now? And I wouldn't
Wow.
change anything, but I think about that a lot. And so I definitely feel like when I'm 50, like I want to have a lot more of an impact. Like I always want to help other people, high successful entrepreneurs, business, but I want to have an impact on the youth. And I,
Dude.
I, I don't know what that looks like, if that's through, and hopefully it's a combination of things, right? If that, whether that's through, scripture, whether that's through health, I don't know, whether that's through connection, whatever it may be. But I feel like I want to have an impact on kids because our youth is our future, and it
Mhm.
feels like I can't imagine. I don't go off a tangent here, but like,
No, dude, this is
I,
great.
I can't imagine growing up in today's society. Like, you know what I mean? Like with social media and distractions and temptation and everything. Like, I oftentimes get scared for our kids. Like, I really do. And there's only so much you can do to protect your kids. And so I'm like, I just think about, man, like, what would I had some bad habits when I was a kid. Like I went down the wrong path a number of times. I'm like, man, I can't imagine now like how much far off I'd be off track. And so I feel like I've got a purpose where I want to steer the youth in a better direction. And so it feels like when I'm 50, like I'm doing something very positive and impactful for the youth. And meanwhile, like I'm still continuing to be the gold standard for my kids.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I want to continue to just build my relationship with my wife as well. Like she's my best friend. We're coming up on our 10-year anniversary in a couple months. And so, gosh, that time will be what, 20 something years of
Let's
marriage.
go, man.
I hope that we're still having fun, learning new things about each other, experiencing new adventures and hobbies in life. And I mean, again, like I said earlier, like my number one thing is family. So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
when I'm 50, I just hope I have a better and deeper and more fruitful relationship with my family, and impacting the youth as well in some capacity.
Dude, let's go.
Yeah.
What's that gonna cost you?
You know what? Might sound weird. I don't think it's going to cost me anything because if
Hmm.
it's my purpose, if it's my passion, if it's my purpose, if it's my calling, it's what I'm meant to do. So like ultimately, I'm not really going to be sacrificing anything. Like I don't think I'm going to have to. There's a price to pay for everything,
Yeah.
but I don't know what that price is. And ultimately, it's not really a price because if it's what I'm meant to do, it's what I'm meant to do. It's my purpose. It's my calling.
Deal. Deal, man. Awesome, dude. Bro, this has been amazing. I've loved getting to know you.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more about you? The last thing I'll say that's very impressive is it looked like you had like just a few hundred followers on Instagram like a year ago. And now you're like, come on, bro. You have a significant following. Like people are following your stuff. You're motivating people.
Yeah.
So how can people find you? Where's the best place? And then obviously the dark side of discipline. Where can they get the book?
Absolutely, I appreciate you asking. Yeah, so a couple of things here. You can follow me on Instagram, like you said. I've built a following over the year. Just being no paying for thing, just being myself, but just being more out there. Like I've got a mission to share. I have a lot of things to add value. I'm gonna just be uncomfortable, put myself out there, if you will. And that's how I've been able to grow it to whatever 40 something thousand followers. So
Awesome.
Instagram Daniel underscore Lee Lee underscore Woodrum Woodrum. So Daniel underscore Lee underscore Woodrum on Instagram. Darksideofdiscipline.com is where the website where you can go find the book. The book launches April 3rd. Amazon, bookstores, all that good stuff. You can find it, of course. And if you're interested, if you're like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm interested in coaching, earlytorise.com. Just check us out. We've got a bunch of things on there, a bunch of free resources that you can check out as well.
Cool. Dude, awesome, man. Thank you for joining the podcast today.
I
And
appreciate it, man.
we'll talk soon.
We'll do it again.
All right, man.